Good afternoon, everybody. My passion is public speaking, and I just recently realized that it's been 10 years that I'm involved in championship speaking and public speaking training. And I can very vividly remember the very first time that I gave actually a session on public speaking. That was in May 2000 in Hamburg, Germany, and the slide that I used was this one. And the excitement in the eyes of the audience was almost as big as yours is now. I have to say that since then I've learned a couple of lessons, but the main thing that I've learned is public speaking is not about theory. It's not about models and complex things. It's about doing. It's about practicing. So what I want to share with you today are some of the lessons that I've learned practicing public speaking. And I'm going to do that by using what I call the speaker's code. Whenever I look at a presentation, I look at the code: content, organization, delivery, and effect. So let's start with the first one, with content. When you join a public speaking training or communication training, you will hear lots of rules. And one of them is a very famous rule, 55-38-7 rule. It says, in terms of communication, 55% is nonverbal. 38% is how we say it, how we intonate it, and only 7% is what we say, content. I don't believe in this at all. For me, in a presentation, content is king. Content is at the core of a presentation. So I want to share with you a couple of thoughts that I have there. Of course, you have to research your material. Of course, you have to dig in there, all of these things. But before you actually take PowerPoint, Keynote, anything in your hands, get a pen and a piece of paper, and I would recommend you write down your objective. Write down, at the end of this presentation, I want, and then what is it that you want to achieve? It sounds so obvious, but so many people don't do it. In order to set a right objective, you have to think of another factor. You have to think of your audience. Who are they? Why are they there? Why do they care? What do they know? What do they not know? And here I would like to actually zoom in a bit further, because there's something about audiences that is lesser known. So let's assume you set your objective, you did all your homework, you did great research, you practiced. Then you want that the audience actually looks a bit like this. Yeah, you want that they cheer, that they love, that they fancy you, yes. And then you go out. And then you go out on the podium, and I can tell you in 95% of the cases, audiences will probably look a bit like this. And what do you do then? What do you do then? Standard advice is look at the people who smile, you know. In every audience, there are some people who smile, who nod, who say whatever you say, actually, they will go, yes, yes, that's brilliant. But what about her? What do you do with her? And in order how to deal with her, let me tell you a little story. 2 years ago, I gave a session. I gave a session to students, business school students, 60 business school students, on public speaking. And when I was roughly 20 minutes into my talk, all of a sudden I noticed that a bit in the back there were also two grumpy students. You know, they had the grumpy face on, looked in this, and then they started to talk with shh. And I thought, what's going on? What are they? Thoughts were going on my head. Like, shall I change my talk? Shall I change anything? And then I was distracted. Another person was sitting there, more front row, young student. And he did the nod, you know. When somebody starts to fall asleep, and I thought, what's happening here? So I tried to really make a break very, very fast. So roundabout after 40 minutes, we made a break. Students entered the room, and then they came. Both the nodder guy, as well as the grumpy couple, came over my place. And I was already starting to get prepared for the questions. And then they started. First the nod one, and he started, you know, I noticed that you saw me fall asleep, and I really have to apologize. You know, we arrived here yesterday, Brussels, nice city. We just went out very, very long, and I'm extremely tired, and I just want to let you know, like your talk. And then the grumpy girl started. Actually, during your talk, we were discussing, can we use that also for our social organization that we do? Can you maybe share some material? And in that moment, I had a revelation when it comes to audiences. I had all my thoughts for nothing. And the key tip I have for you is, do not try to mind read your audience. There are nodders in every audience. There are many grumpy people in every audience. And people tell me I'm a very grumpy listener. But that doesn't mean I don't like the talk. That just means I'm reflecting. So what I recommend to you, don't try to mind read doing your talk, your audience. get some feedback afterwards, but during the talk, just go on. Then some thoughts on organization. It has been said, a great talk has a great opening, a great ending, and hopefully not too much in between these two. Yeah? And that is good advice when it comes to organization. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you've told them. But I think there's something missing. Roughly 1 year ago, I had to give a session on public speaking at a conference, good conference, 100 managers roughly over there. And 1 hour before my talk, we had a break. Good coffee break and so on. So I was having a coffee, standing there chatting a bit, and then it happened. Somebody crashed into me, and so the coffee spilled all over my shirt. 1 hour before the session. The question is, what do you do then? I mean, I had lots of thoughts that go on. Buy a new shirt. Not happening. Reserve shirt, I didn't have anybody. Ask somebody for a new shirt. Didn't really work out. Nobody my size was over there. Then I thought, like, maybe I should enter like this and just give my talk a bit like this during all the time. Maybe that would work. No. In the end, I started my talk like this with a stain. But a question to you, what do you think would have happened if I would have started, "Good day, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about presentation skills today"? Almost everybody of you would have thought, what's up with the stain? And luckily, at that moment, what I call the elephant rule came to my mind. Some time ago, I listened to a great speech by a person named Randy Pausch. Randy Pausch was a professor with cancer, and he gave his so-called last lecture. And he mentioned there's something that stuck to my mind, and he mentioned something very, very profound. And he said, when there's an elephant in the room, introduce it. In his part, that was the cancer. For me, what I did then is saying, what happened? I just told the story to the audience, what happened with the coffee, and that was it. And this is what I would recommend. So many speakers just go on and leave the stuff that happened there. If you have any elephants in your room, in your audience, or wherever it is, introduce it. Is there a vice president missing? Name it. Microphone not working? Name it. Things falling off the sky during your talk? Name it and address it. And then, only then, go on. So introduce that elephant. Then we come to the next area, that's delivery. Delivery, one of my favorite areas to look at. And there are so many things to look in terms of delivery, and people are craving for Lars here. And I would say there are a couple of things that can go wrong in terms of delivery. Yeah, just for example, many of you will have sessions, small sessions, 20 people sitting there, and there's a presenter over there who has a pen in the hand. And you know that, when some people start with a pen in the hand? Probably not the best thing that you can do in that moment. Then in general, there are other dangerous objects. I see many of you wear the badges. I see many speakers in the trainings actually start to play around with the badges. Or necklaces. Or also, very favorite thing, some speakers start playing around with things in their pockets. Like this one here with a key. Key recommendation I would have for you with this, empty all of your pockets. Get rid of all dangerous things. I do that every time when I give a talk, and that was for demonstration purposes here. Then there's, of course, the stand. And you know, some speakers stand there, 500 slides, they will not move the whole talk. But then there's also something what I would call the speaker's dance, you know. Some start a bit more slow. We go from back and forth, up until what I would call the speaker's disco fox, you know, going back, always back, forth, stepping back, forth, up until what I would call the tiger dance. It's a motivational speakers very often do this. They go from back to forth, like a tiger in the cage, right? And typically audience would say, after 10 seconds, stop, that gets on our nerves. What does work for me there? Walk with a purpose. Calm, natural stand, and then maybe if you change your thought, yes, then you can move around a bit and then walk. So obviously these were some of the things that one should not do. But let's explore it a bit further, the topic of body language. Let's look at him. Now he stands there, starts his talk, moves around a bit. Hands in the pocket. Oh, very bad. Whoa, second hand in the pocket. No, what's going on? There realizes, takes out. Huh. So we're all focused on the hands on the pocket. But frankly, I tell you, if we would listen to the sound and would listen to the whole speaker and the speech, we might not even have noticed it. And that gets me to the problem of body language laws. I'll tell you another law that is going on. Like I read once, in terms of eye contact, one should finish a sentence with one person. So up to 12 seconds. Whenever I actually do that and actually talk longer than 5 seconds to one person at a time, that person feels rather annoyed, exactly. What works for me is 1 to 2 seconds at a time and then move on. So 1 to 2 seconds, that's enough, like, oh, looking at me, but that's enough, please go on. It already shows like some of these laws don't work, and I would actually challenge you and tell you, forget all body language laws. Frankly, I've seen one of the best speeches that I've seen was by a 70-year-old person who gave a speech on humor who could not move anymore, and he just gave this speech like this. It was fantastic. Can I tell you, you should stand like that, or very open like this, or never do like this? No. The only thing that I would recommend you is find your own natural style. And how do you do that? Get feedback. After the talk that you do, get feedback. Ask your friends, spouses, bosses, whoever, get feedback, or videotape yourself. And I see here another excitement in the eyes. Videotape yourself. Oh, I don't like to watch myself. I don't sound like that. Yes, you do sound like that. And that's why you need to look at it and get and improve yourself on it. But forget standard body language laws. That brings me to the field of effect. Effect is all about how to add some special spice, the icing on the cake. And there are great things that we can do. Great visuals create fantastic effect. Great movies create great effect. And of course, there's humor. And with humor, I would like to do a little exercise with you. I would love you all to get in pairs with your neighbor. Okay? Please get in pairs. And decide who is going to be A and who is going to be B. Okay? And now I want the A's to tell the B's a really good joke, please. Okay, stop. Thank you. Stop, please, for a sec. Okay, who of the A's thought, no problem, I have several. Can I see, maybe show of hands? Well, 1. Okay, 2. Who of the A's thought, what I'm going to say now? All right. Who of the B thought, lucky I'm not A at the moment. Okay. And for me, this here actually shows 2 things. A, creating or being funny on the spot is a rather challenging thing. But B, creating moments of effect, of lightness with an audience while interacting with them is something that almost every speaker can achieve. So my key recommendation for you, interact with the audience. An easy way to do it is show of hands, and we've seen it here, Ken Robinson and so on. Great examples of shows of hands. Open up a bit and ask some maybe pre-thought or preconceived questions that you can to the audience. So we've talked about content, organization, delivery, and effect. But actually one of the biggest things that I've learned in public speaking come from something different. And actually I want to tell you a bit about my upbringing. I'm German. I grew up in Germany and went to school in Germany, to a good public school, for 13 years. And the only thing was, during these 13 years, I gave 3 speeches, 3 presentations in class. And I think that is a problem. And I think that's all over continental Europe very similar. We don't speak enough. But that's even not the main point. It was more like what was expected from us at the time. How were we looked at and how did we get feedback that was important? We were all rewarded for these very stern speeches, you know, like standing there in biology. This is a bee. It produces honey, and so on. Very stern and serious. And since then, I've realized there was something missing. And I believe the one thing that is missing in so many speeches are personal examples and stories. Personal examples of what happened to you, how things are connected in your talk, how the facts are connected to your personal experience are vital. And I would encourage you all to find these elements and build them into your presentation. And I actually would encourage you not only to tell any story, I would like to encourage you actually to tell your story. I believe there are many, many people in here who have a fantastic knowledge about one subject and who are passionate about that subject. And I would recommend you go out and talk about that subject. Create a presentation and go out and talk. Find an association, maybe a club, Toastmasters club, invite your maybe some friends, lock the doors, and just give that talk. And do that again and again and again. By talking about something we like, what we are passionate about, and doing that again, that is what has helped me improve the most as a speaker. So I would encourage you to do that. Some estimates have it that there are around about 300 million speeches given every year in Europe alone. 300 million. And I think most of them are unfortunately rather boring. So I do believe we need much more passionate talks. I do believe there's much room for improvement. So I would encourage you all, and I would challenge you all, find that one subject, find your story, and go out and speak. Thank you very much.